Good evening, student. This video I am preparing for AWS DevOps Professional Exam. Uh, So from last four videos, I covered security concept. Now this is a another chapter named AWS config. It comes under domain 6. Domain 6 is having 11 questions, which is based on security concept. I will cover these slides. Please listen properly, and in case of any issues, write in comments. So domain 6, security and compliance, AWS config. So I will be covering AWS config benefit. What are the benefits of AWS config? How AWS config work? What are the different use cases of AWS config? What are the AWS config concept? How AWS config different from CloudTrail? AWS config is a managed and regional service used for auditing and recording compliance of AWS resources. It provides detailed view of configuration of AWS resources in the AWS account. It gives point in time and historical states, allowing users to see changes visually in a timeline. It continuously monitor and records AWS resource configuration, allows the user to automate the evaluation of recorded configuration against desired configuration. So the fourth line, I'm reading it again. It continuously monitors and record AWS record configuration. So for example, you have the security group. In the security group, you have the inbound and outbound rules. Now you don't want to allow to anywhere, and you want a write a rule which should not allow any inbound from anywhere. So what we will do, we will create a AWS configuration rule, and we will say that a rule should not allow anywhere traffic from anywhere. So whenever someone try to add anywhere 0.0.0.0/0, it will send events, it will send a SNS notification. So you can integrate SNS notification with AWS config, and based on your desired and recorded configuration, you can get the output. There are different kind of use cases of AWS. So AWS config is used for security analysis and resource administration. As I specified, security group is one example, encryption is another example. Manage resource configuration changes. So you can record based on your bill of material, you can record at any point of time, you can record all the resource configuration. In case of any changes, it will send you the notification. It evaluate configurations against your desired state. It also helps troubleshooting and also provide the remediation. So you can add a config rule. For example, I specified I don't want anywhere. So what I will do, I will put a rule that will automatically remediate anywhere to any other rule. It continues monitors, it do the monitoring and do the assessment. It also give you the compliance report. So based on your config rule, you can, since AWS config keep on monitoring, you can have a compliance and non-compliance report. How AWS config work? So if you'll see record, normalize, store and deliver. So we record So if you will see here, we have S3 bucket, we have EBS volume. It go to the AWS config. There are different versions we can have: be normalize, be store, and be deliver. This is the way AWS config work. So you can record all the versions of the resources, and based on the versions you can normalize it and store further. Now how AWS config work? We have AWS sources. AWS resources are entities created and managed by EC2 instance. Config rule add in the definition of required resource. Resource relationship, it finds the account AWS resources and then produce a map of relationship between them. Configuration item, configuration snapshots, configuration history, configuration stream, and configuration recorder. So there are 8 component of AWS config. So this is a picture I took from the AWS site. We have AWS config. It record and normalize the changes into a consistent format. It manages, discover resources, record configurations, understand relationship, and capture changes. It evaluates, and then it simplifies. And after simplification, it gives you the operational troubleshooting, compliance and audit, change management, and security monitoring. Specify the resource type you want config to record. Set up Amazon SNS to notify for a configuration changes. Specify an S3 bucket to receive configuration information. You use AWS config manage rules to evaluate the resource type. So important is you record and normalize the changes into a consistent format. As I specified, I took the example of S3. I took the example of security groups. AWS config versus CloudTrail. AWS config reports on what has changed. So as I specified, you can record your resources at any point of time. Then if any resource has been changed, you can get that in report. CrowdTrail reports on who made the changes and when and which location. Config focus on the configuration of AWS sources and reports with detailed snapshot how the resource have changed. Whereas CloudTrail focus on the event or API call that drive those changes. It focuses on the user application and activity performed on the system. Thank you.